Hello there, welcome to Brian Lomax's Movie Talk and my top 10 horror movies of 2017. I'm doing this in conjunction with Lee, aka Drumdums, and also Cody Leach. They kind of started this, they were doing it, and I basically piggybacked, kind of jumped in, hijacked, if you want to use specific terminology, because I wanted to do it as well, so they let me into the cool gang. But yeah, there you go. Check out their videos if you haven't already. I can't imagine that you wouldn't have. Yeah, let's get into mine. First up is a British horror film called The Ritual. This is about three guys who go on a bit of a camping trip to celebrate their friend who passed away, who was murdered in fact. But yeah, everything goes horribly wrong, as tends to do in these kind of situations in horror movies, and it turns into a bit of a creature feature kind of thing. It's got its problems. I reviewed it when it came out, and there's certain logic to it that isn't quite explained in a truly satisfying way, and that kind of lets the film down a bit. But other than that, there's actually a lot to offer in it, and it's one of those films that, for me at any rate, it kind of stuck with me. Even though I did have issues with it, it lingered in my mind, particularly the creature that we get to. Brilliant design, one of the best creature designs I've seen in a long time. It's very majestic, very beautiful, but also very scary. At number 9 is Get Out, Jordan Peele's debut feature. Obviously this is a guy who comes from comedy, so this film has a lot of comedy in it. It's kind of a satire, social satire, very politically minded film. I wasn't quite as big on it as most people, and I think it's arguable as to whether or not you can call it a straight up horror. I think it's probably sits more on the side of thriller than horror, but it still fits within the horror genre. You know, most people this year, when reviewing it, have kind of saddled it in with the horror genre. So you know what? That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put it in to the horror genre, and as such, it makes my number 9. Like I say, very, very politically minded film, quite clever in some ways. I do think the ending gets a little bit too absurd for my taste. I like all the performances, love the cinematography. Cinematography in it kind of reminds me of films like Halloween and It Follows, that kind of thing. You know, very wide angles, very still shots, kind of you're looking in the corner of frames for things. So yeah, it does a very good job of creating a feeling of dread throughout. You know, it's a very unnerving film. You always feel like something is going to come that's maybe worse than what we actually get. At number 8, and this was probably the biggest surprise for me, although actually my number 4 choice was also a really big surprise, but one of the biggest surprises of the year is the fan film Never Hike Alone, which is a Friday the 13th movie. Now, when I heard that there was a fan film coming out, and I heard first actually from CP, from Will I Like It Reviews. He's a huge Friday the 13th fan. So yeah, I heard about this film and basically I rolled my eyes, because how good can it be as a fan film? Especially with a franchise that, quite frankly, probably has more misses than it has hits. Just, you know, from my opinion. But man, wow. Yeah, what they did with the budget for this film was incredible, and they produced a film that is actually better than at least half of the official Friday the 13th movies. So yeah, you know, studios, all this pussyfooting around they do over this franchise, just employ these guys. Absolutely brilliant, really well orchestrated, and just a really cool concept as well, using modern technology. You know, we live in the YouTube age, that, you know, everyone's filming themselves and whatnot. Hey ho. And putting that to good use within the framework of this story. At number 7 is a film called It Comes at Night, and I think this film put a lot of people off because, well, the title and some of the trailers as well. I think they suggest that something of a creature nature is going to come, like, kind of like It Follows, that kind of thing. You know, the title, It Comes at Night. What is it that comes at night? Well, it's paranoia. You know, it's not really a monster movie in that respect. It's all about paranoia. It's a very relevant film for our times, I think. You know, we live in an age of paranoia. It's just, you know, ever since September the 11th, ever since those terrorist attacks, we've just dug ourselves further and further into a state of paranoia. You know, you only have to look at government policy to see that in action. And that's what this film deals with. It deals with, you know, this isolation, having to force yourself to stay locked up in your house, not accept any outsiders, and be very wary of them when they come, be very suspicious of them when they come, and everybody becomes an enemy. It's a very tense film, very thought-provoking film, and a really good examination of paranoia. Number 6, we've got Geralds Game. Now, this is the most recent watch of mine. I, in fact, watched this just yesterday before making this list. It's a film I'd heard a lot of talk about, so I didn't want to make this list until I'd seen it. And I'm glad I did, because, hey, it's made the list. But it does have its problems. Mainly the ending. This is a Stephen King adaptation, and this is a common thing, I must say, with Stephen King. He never seems to know how to finish off his stories, and I believe, I don't read any of his work, and I've not heard this firsthand, but I've been told from several people that he himself admits that endings aren't his strong point. He doesn't tend to think of the ending, rather he gets the cool concept first and explores that. And it shows, you know. I think a lot of his films that are more faithful to his books, they have bad endings. And this, while it doesn't derail the whole thing, because it's a staggering film, I've got to say. You know, it's a Netflix original, and I went into this with not many expectations. I felt like maybe people were overhyping it, but it's a really good film. It uncovers so many different layers of psychology and you know, society problems and abuse. You know, it's all about this woman coming to terms with abuse, really. You know, whether it was from her father, whether it's from her husband, but it's all done through the framework of this story in which she is handcuffed to a bed. You know, her husband handcuffs her to a bed. And he has a heart attack. You know, it's all part of a sex game, and it goes wrong. He has a heart attack, he dies, and she's left there. She's stuck there. And that sounds like it might be quite boring. It sounds like it might be quite dull. But it isn't. It's anything but. It's very tense. They find many different ways of introducing things into the narrative that keep you guessing, that keep you on edge. And there's some really disgusting moments in it as well. Some of the most vile body horror stuff I've seen in a long time. One particular moment involving a hand, and yeah, it just made me skin crawl. There's an element of the film that I really enjoyed, but then it's flipped on its head, and it becomes something else entirely, right at the end, literally in the last 5 minutes. And all this is done through exposition, and it's really unnecessary, you know? It's like, I get why they did it. They needed to find a way for this character, this main character, to confront, you know, the monsters of the world. But I just think they could have done it differently. You know, they could have done it more internal. And yeah, there's some symbolic stuff in there that I liked. And then, like I say, it clashes big time with this reveal that they have at the end. And for me, that stops it from being, say, a 5-star film or a 4.5-star film, and it turns into something of a 4-star film. That's still very good. Like I say, it's only those last 5 minutes I have problems with. The rest of the film, really nail-biting stuff. And yeah, great performances as well, I must say, from the two leads. I can't remember his name, and that's annoying because he's actually one of my favourite actors. I really like the dude. But Carla Gugino in this, she'd be a front runner for me come Oscar time. So far from the films that I've seen this year, you know, she completely carries this film. She won't get nominated because horror films never do when it comes Oscar time. But there you go. That's nature of the beast. At number 5 is another Stephen King adaptation. Good year for him, it seems. It. Yeah, you know, I have fond memories, I guess, of the original TV miniseries that they did, although I've not seen it, you know, since watching it way back when. And the thing I always remember about that, again, was the horrible ending, because it had created such dread throughout, and this character of Pennywise was a really horrific character, a really terrifying character. And then they just ruined it with the ending, in which they don't even use Pennywise. He turns into something else, and it just wasn't scary at all. They don't do that with this one. They have a good ending, I think, which is good. You know, that's, again, filmmakers changing the ending, making it more suitable for for cinema, and it worked. It really did work. The key thing about this film, I think, is the kids. The kids that are in it, they're dynamic, the relationship they have, and the chemistry they have, and particularly the performances of these young actors, is absolutely brilliant. And for me, that's really what makes this film, is just how much you can buy into those relationships, into those kids, and believe in them as characters and go along with them on this journey. Which brings me to my number 4, which again, as I said before, this was one of the biggest surprises for me, mainly because it's directed by McG. So I did not expect something like this from him at all. And that film is The Babysitter, another Netflix film, absolutely hilarious, really great stuff. Yeah, about this kid who really fancies his babysitter, really loves his babysitter. She, on the surface level, seems absolutely brilliant as well. He's always in his corner, you know, helping him against bullies and that kind of thing. But she turns out to be a complete crackpot. She's into witchcraft and, well, devil worship and all that. And yeah, she tries to do this ritual. It all goes wrong. And anyway, the movie is all about him. It's a coming-of-age drama, basically. It's about him accepting who he is, getting over those bumps that kind of stop him from fulfilling his potential, so to speak, you know, confidence, all that kind of thing, and making certain choices that perhaps he wouldn't made before all of this kicked off. So yeah, it's a really good film, but for me, it's the humour that's in it that really kind of jumps out at me. I wasn't ready for it. It's, yeah, great film. There's a few moments in it that kind of don't work. There's one particular death scene from one of the killers. There's a whole group of these guys involved in this worship, this devil worship thing, and like you do feel like on some of them, one in particular, they kind of ran out of ideas of how to kill them. Number 3 is Split, and this was it warmed my heart, I gotta say, to see M. Night Shyamalan back on form. I mean, I actually thought he got back on form with The Visit. A film that I thought was actually pretty creepy, really well made. Not one of his best, don't get me wrong, but yeah, I thought that was the start of, you know, the old Shyamalan coming back. Still, some audiences didn't quite take to it, but Split, I think, yeah, it's been one of them films where both audiences and critics have been back on board the Shyamalan train. And that's in no small part thanks to James McAvoy, who does an incredible performance in which he's doing multiple performances. Obviously, he plays this guy with a split personality. And yeah, you believe all these different characters. As per usual with Shyamalan, there is a twist in the ending. But yeah, it's a good one, and it sets us up for other things to come, which, quite frankly, I've been hoping for many, many years. I will say no more than that, although I'm sure by now you would know what that is, even if you haven't seen the film. Number 2 is Alien Covenant, and I can already hear people shouting at the screen saying that I must be smoking crack. No, I loved this film, as I did with Prometheus. I love the new direction that Ridley Scott has been taking this franchise in. I like that he's delving into theology, you know, that he's really dealing with big themes, big weighty religious themes, and to me the film spoke to me a great deal. You know, it spoke an awful lot to me and my personal faith. So yeah, I loved it. I thought it was great. Does it have problems? Yeah, it's got some, but for me, they're really minor issues in the grand scheme of things. When you look at what he's achieved from a story standpoint, from a theological standpoint, for me, I lapped it up. I thought it was fantastic, and I think David is one of the best villains, cinematic villains we've had in a long, long time. And I really do hope that he gets to do another one. I do. I know there's been rumours, been rumblings from him recently in which he said they are definitely going to do another one. Obviously, studio hasn't confirmed that yet, but I hope they do, and I hope they let Scott finish that trilogy. You know, if at least at least finish David's storyline. That's all I ask. And so we get to my number one choice. And this is a film I know people are going to say does not deserve to be here. I know I'm in the minority when I talk about how much I love this film, but it is Life. Again, an Alien ripoff, essentially. When you boil it down to its bare essentials, this is literally just an Alien ripoff. But it does it so well. In my mind, it does at any rate. I thought it was tense. I thought there are some really horrific scenes, but in a good way, you know, that really get me on the edge of my seat. Some big name actors that kind of get done away with in quite some nasty ways. And some really unexpected moments. Nice little twist at the end. I got to admit, I did kind of see it coming, but I still liked how they handled it. I liked the way it was all shot and put together. It was really nice. I loved it. I've heard some people, well, my good friend Graham over from Man v Film, I also do the Brits on Flicks podcast with him, he thought Jake Gyllenhaal just kind of sleptwalked through the role, and I didn't. I thought actually what he was doing was playing detached. This is a guy who just has kind of distanced himself from humanity. He spent more time in space in recent years than he has on planet Earth, and he prefers it that way. He's not really a people person, and I think that came across in Gyllenhaal's performance. This man who's very disconnected from humanity. Maybe not the most original horror film of the year. Absolutely not the most original horror film of the year. But it's the one that just grabbed me more than any other. And I know, Cody Leach, when you do your lists, you're probably going to put this in your bottom 5, because we are all going to be doing a bottom 5 list as well. Yeah, I know for a fact Cody didn't like this at all, but hey ho, there you go, it's my number 1. But what about you? Have you seen any of these films? And if so, what did you think about them? How would you rank them instead? Comment below, let me know. Thank you for watching, and until next time, cracking. I'm doing this in conjunction with both Lee, aka Drumdums. Fan film, how good can it be? There's so many of these things out there. Oh, balls, there's the door.